Well, good morning, Arklatex. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Jake Lambright. Going to be breaking down a lot in today's podcast episode. Of course, lots to talk about when it comes to this weekend's weather. We've got a repeat when it comes to cold temperatures, not a repeat, and I repeat, not a repeat, whenever it comes to the potential for wintry precipitation. Not going to see anything this weekend, just going to be very, very cold. Coming up a little bit later on, though, of course, we're going to talk about the frigid temperatures for your Saturday. We've got rain chances returning next week, and then I've got a very interesting interview with Miss Amy Dickson, the Elysian Fields ISD superintendent. I spoke to her to learn a little bit more about school districts' insight and their process when it comes to making decisions on whether or not to keep schools open or closed. I mean, of course, a big thing. We have winter weather when we have severe weather. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over here to our weather graphic system. We're going to dive right in to the latest on Saturday's forecast. So let's start off with our wind gusts. This is overnight tonight into early Saturday morning, and you'll see wind gusts anywhere from 25 to even close to 30, 35 miles per hour. And whenever you see winds that strong, you factor that in with our feels like temperatures. Look at what it will feel like tomorrow morning. Potentially near zero out toward I-30. We've got some single digits there as far south as I-10, and then low teens as you head south of the I-20 corridor. So pretty chilly out there. If you don't have to be outside, I recommend not being outside. There's one thing I want to note here about our feels like temperatures. Feels like temperatures only impact living things, so people, pets, plants. That's what feels these wind chill values. Infrastructure, buildings do not. Your home's not going to take this as an 8-degree day, for example, if you're in Longview. Air temperatures will be in the lower 20s. So it's still going to be cold enough to keep your exposed outdoor pipes and spigots covered and to drip your faucets overnight tonight. But again, it's not going to feel like 8 to your pipes. You're not going to see those effects. But again, it will be in the lower 20s. So tomorrow afternoon will be an abnormally cold afternoon for us in the Arklatex. Highs will be in the mid-30s. And feels like temperatures will likely stay in the mid-20s. So if you're heading out tomorrow, maybe doing some Saturday shopping, bundle up. It is going to be quite chilly out there. All right, let's check on your frost and freeze forecast for the next 7 days. Friday night and Saturday night, we have low temperatures both in the lower 20s. From there, you'll see Sunday night and Monday morning, we're back into the low 30s, and from there, we should stay above freezing. The only night that's a little questionable is Wednesday night. Right now, frost is looking likely for a good chunk of the Arklatex and a light freeze, possibly as you head north of I-30. And temperatures are close enough where a light freeze will certainly be possible. We'll have to work to fine-tune that forecast in the days to come. A lot that can change between now and then. But overall, temperatures are going to look a lot nicer as we head into next week. Here's a look at your temperature trend. Again, that 34 on Saturday, just not looking good. Then as we get towards Sunday, you'll notice highs are back into the upper 40s. We're in the low 60s for your Monday and Tuesday, and then getting a little bit cooler for Wednesday and Thursday. Even when we dip down a few degrees, the coolest we're seeing temperatures during next work week is 53. Compared to this week, if you're cold-natured like me, that 53 looks pretty good and very tolerable. Again, heading into next week, things are going to stay a lot more consistent. All right, let's talk rain chances because some things have actually changed with rain chances since yesterday. If you look here at just the daytime rain chances the next 7 days, they don't look too impressive overall. 30% for your Tuesday, I should say. Today's Friday. No rain today, but 30% chance of rain for your Tuesday, 20% for your Wednesday. But it's the overnight hours Tuesday into Wednesday where we've got the best chance of rain, maybe a 50 to 60% chance of rain. The big thing that's really changed with the rainfall potential heading into next week are totals, and they've trended in the wrong direction. Here's a look at your rainfall forecast for the next 7 days, and generally we're looking at roughly half an inch of rain, or a quarter of an inch of rain to half an inch of rain, which overall, given our drought conditions, is not that impressive. We did just get a new drought monitor update yesterday. I'll actually make that full screen so you can see it. That comparison, and you'll notice not much of a change. The biggest and most noticeable change is that northern DeSoto Parish is no longer in severe drought conditions, which is a level 2 out of 4 on the drought monitor scale. It's a very small sliver that goes into a tiny section of Panola County, Shelby County, and extreme northeastern Nacogdoches County in eastern Texas. Overall, like I said, not a very impressive change compared to last week. So that quarter of an inch to half an inch of rain, it'll help, but we really need a little bit more rain to help pull us out of those ongoing drought conditions. Beyond those rain chances, Tuesday night into early Wednesday, we're going to flip to a drier pattern as we head through the rest of next week. If you saw our 12-day forecast earlier, don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it already, but beyond rain chances, Tuesday through Wednesday of next week, it's not looking hopeful. We're going to flip to that drier pattern and actually probably see a below average amount of precipitation for that February 4th through the 8th time frame. Another look here at your extended temperature outlook heading through the 4th through the 8th. It's really a coin toss between slightly above, slightly below average temperatures. There's going to be times where we're slightly below average, as you saw with that 7-day temperature trend, which I'll pull up here in just a second. There are going to be times where we're slightly below the average and then times where we're slightly above the average for this time of the year. Either way, though, temperatures are going to start to even out and be a little more consistent as we head into next week. All right, I know our forecast discussion today was a little bit on the brief side. I'm going to take us to a quick break, and then I will start my interview with Superintendent Amy Dickson of Elysian Fields ISD. A very interesting interview. I know one of the most asked questions that I get on social media when we've got severe weather, winter weather, flooding on the way is my kid's school going to be closed down? And we don't make those decisions as your local meteorologist, but of course your local school officials do. And I think that this will provide a lot of insight as to what administrators have to really consider and kind of their thought process in that. All right, I'll be back here in about 90 seconds with that interview. All right, welcome back to the First Alert Weather Breakdown podcast. I'm meteorologist Jake Lambright, joined by Miss Amy Dickson, Elysian Fields ISD Superintendent. Miss Dickson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you on. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I know as a meteorologist, I get asked all the time. Every time there's winter weather, severe weather, flooding, is my school going to close today? So Miss Dickson is here today to help provide a little bit more insight as to all the factors that go into making those kind of decisions. Of course, they're big decisions with the safety of your students and even you at the forefront. So again, let's go ahead and dive right in. The first question that I have for you today is when it comes to making the decision on whether to close school for the day, what does the process at Elysian Fields look like?
Um, so first of all, I'd tell you that it definitely is probably the most important and biggest decision that we make, just because it's directly related to school safety and our kids being safe. But in Elysian Fields, as well as in the former district that I was in, we just stay in good communication with our directors, our transportation director, our maintenance director. We have a process where their teams go and drive the routes when we think there is weather that could affect school closure. And then they report back to me, and we kind of follow that chain through the principals who then talk to their campuses. And then we use our district representative who does all of our social media and that kind of stuff to try to get the messages out to the community and to parents.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely a lot that goes into that there. And of course, I know one of the big things that you'll have to evaluate when making those decisions, of course, is getting reliable and trusted weather information. What weather sources do y'all look at or maybe even have contacts with that help assist you in getting the information that you need to make a sound call?
Well, that was kind of funny and neat just to see. And as you know, as we get into this new era of technology and apps and all of that stuff, it was everybody had a different weather app that they used on their phone. Of course, we always start local. We use our local news stations. We use our local radios, anything that um, is in a 30, 60-mile radius from our area to 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 look at the conditions near, and then of course the national weather forecast. But we also use just our different apps that we have on our phone to compare and try to get kind of a good picture of what matches the best. Most of all, though, we just rely on you guys and on our local weather stations to help.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, weather information is very accessible. So it's always great to have, and we say it a lot on air too to people at home, it's always great to have multiple trusted sources to get your weather information. It sounds like y'all are doing just that over at Elysian Fields. That leads me kind of to my next question with weather impacts. I know Elysian Fields ISD is located in a very rural area, so I can imagine y'all probably set or face a very unique set of challenges compared to a more urban district, say Marshall ISD, Caddo Parish. Can you elaborate on some of the rural weather-related challenges that y'all face that kind of factor into some of those decisions?
Absolutely. Well, and here is the thing about rural schools that people don't understand is that it's not always conditions like this week that are big decisions for us. I mean, sometimes literally it's rain, and bottom line, it comes down to we have a ton of blacktop roads that have a lot of shaded areas, and that's a whole different scenario for a bus than a well-traveled highway that sometimes the urban areas um, are, using to make their decisions. And it just was that way this week. So our main roads looked pretty travel safe, but our blacktop roads that our buses take um, still had some areas that were not great, even this morning. And we get buses through, although we did reroute um, some different paths just for our buses to avoid the worst of the worst. But I think that's probably the biggest difference. It's just the places that we may go on county roads that the bigger school districts don't have to face. And the thing about it is it really is not just the the snow and the ice. I mean, even sometimes when it rains hard, we have to look at those roads to see if flooding is going to determine whether or not we can get through.
Absolutely. I know flooding is a big one, like you said, especially on your county roads compared to some of the city roads in some of the bigger local towns. That leads me to my next question as well. So, being a smaller school district, are there any resource constraints that y'all face that urban districts might not face when preparing for or even responding to after inclement weather rolls through?
I think I don't know that there's really a lot of inequity there. One thing that's super cool is that we have a group. Our Harrison County superintendents are tight, and we communicate a lot for a lot of different reasons, but especially in situations like this. And in this past week, our group was as far west as Longview ISD to the state line, and then north we had Harleton and Karnak and Jefferson in our group message. And so we rely on each other, but all of our situations are unique. And within that eight superintendent group, we had some that had delayed starts like us, some that went all day, and some that couldn't go at all. And so I think that's important. I know that it's easy for parents if they see us all doing the same thing, but the reality is my district doesn't look like other people's districts. And as far as resources go, we all do the same process. A lot of us, even our superintendents, are out driving the road. I happen to be married to sub bus driver, which really helped me yesterday because he knows all of the routes. And so we just divide and conquer and take up different sections. And I think that process is the same whether we're a 6A district or a 1A district. It's just all about physically getting out and driving them and not making any assumptions that something is safe if it's not.
Absolutely. And of course, it sounds like y'all have a great support group. I know it's different, but I can tell you firsthand, being a meteorologist, it's great to have our partners at the National Weather Service and other partners, emergency managers, to kind of discuss weather-related things with as well. So I know that having that resource, having that support group is very, very helpful for y'all.
It's great. It's huge. I mean, I want to use the term that's coming to my mind is misery loves company, and that's not the case. But we, in this particular situation, we know that we're in a situation where parents depend on us. They depend on us to, you know, not only educate their children, but also house their children during the day while they're at work. And for lots of things, we know that we're here for kids, for food and for warmth, and it weighs heavily on us when we can't be in school. Not that we don't all enjoy a day here and there, to just see the beautiful ice and snow, or what have you, if we know that our district and our students and staff are safe. But it's a big decision to make, and so just to have those superintendents to talk it through with is comforting, and we definitely rely on each other a lot in that process, even though we do know sometimes you have to do the brave things, and that may be that the districts on both sides of me are having school, but 60% or 70% of my routes are not drivable, and we have to close. It wasn't the case today, and I will tell you, today was, Monday and Tuesday were easy decisions. Wednesday ended up being an easy decision. Today was a little bit harder because we were mostly passable, but still there were a few areas that were not great. And so I questioned and kept my fingers crossed and prayed and lost sleep over worrying about it. Everybody that chose to come to school today made it here safe, and that was great. I haven't checked our absent percent, but a lot of times when you do delays, you just know that that's something that's going to play into it. There are going to be people that make the decision to keep their kids home, and we respect that and understand that. We want them here, and we don't make that call lightly, but we do understand everybody has to do what's best for their families.
Absolutely. I know that, like you're saying, it looks different case to case, depending on where you live, kind of the means of transportation and whatnot. There's a lot that goes into it. I know one option that's fairly new, I guess within the last 5 years or so, is virtual learning. I know many school districts had to adapt to that with COVID-19, the pandemic, having to go virtual. Are there any times that y'all determine that it's necessary to close? Maybe the roads are impassable, but where y'all will opt for virtual learning, or is that something that y'all lean toward not doing so much, either, being in the classroom in person, or, just kind of taking that necessary day or two to catch up and breathe and then go back well rested to the classroom?
Well, Jake, I don't want to lie to you or mislead you. And so what I'm going to tell you is that I don't think that that is an option when it's just a few days. But I'm not 100% sure about that. And my in my personal career, I've been retired and just rehired this past year. So I was in as a superintendent during COVID, but then back out for a minute. And so I can't tell you with 100% fidelity that I know about that. But I do believe that we had a conversation in that superintendent group where we knew some board members were asking about virtual learning. And I think one of the superintendents said, that's just not an option that is viable or possibly even legal when it's just a few days. And so now that doesn't mean that individual teachers may not be in touch with students from home, with Parent Square, or the different ways that they communicate about certain assignments. But for the most part, we know that families are facing challenges that go beyond just not being at school. We were super blessed at my house to not even have power blink but there are a lot of families that were south of us and north and just all around that lost power. And then we had other families that lost water. And I don't know that my philosophy matches that of all the superintendents, but personally, you know, just make it. Just do what you need to do to protect your family during that time, and we'll make up for it when we get back. It's the beauty of making a school calendar that has extra minutes built into it. We know these things are going to come up. In Elysian Fields, we were super blessed because we made it the entire fall semester without having to use a day. And that doesn't happen. I mean, I've had days before in another district where literally we had to leave the first day of school because we lost power. And so that really helps us though, because we know moving into the spring, you know, we're going to have possibly these ice and snow days. And then, you know, as we get closer to April and May, there probably will be some heavy rain days that can knock out power or have some of our blacktops that are near creeks and stuff flood that we may have to use. So I feel like we're blessed that we build these calendars that build in these extra days for us.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. One of the one of the things I know y'all have to do, of course, when making these decisions is, of course, relaying that out. I know technology's made that so much easier over the years. You can send a text message, an email, kind of do like a phone call list. Are there any, especially being in a rural area, are there any unique communication challenges that y'all face, or with modern technology, is it pretty easy to disseminate the information that y'all are starting on time or delayed start or even closing school?
I think it's super easy now, and I'm so grateful for that. We were just talking about that. My mom and dad were both superintendents, and so growing up, you know, we had the phone line, and my sister and I, we'd have friends calling all day and all night saying, what have they decided? Did they make a decision? Are we going to school? Are we not going to school? And I will tell you, it seems like back in those days, the decision was actually made a lot later in the day or even the morning of. And oftentimes we found that out by watching the little scrolling words across the bottom of the local news stations. And so even then, though, word got around pretty quick that school would be out. Now, I'm sure without a doubt that we have some families that don't have access to internet. And so, and even if they do, they may not be on all of our social media channels, but we try to make it a point to make sure that we're up to date basically in our database with cell phone numbers and email addresses. And as long as parents meet us halfway with that and make sure that we have their up-to-date numbers and up-to-date emails, you know, we have the ability to send out a call, a text, an email. We also have our other apps that we use, like Parent Square or things like that. And then we put it on our website and we put it on Facebook. I would venture, I could be wrong about this, besides the text messages, I would venture to say that most people get it from social media. And even like when I made a decision or make a decision, I'll say to my directors and principals, hey, we're going to put it out at 4 p.m. that we're, you know, going to be out tomorrow. Feel free to let your staff know, you know, right before we put this out so that they don't feel like they're hearing it from social media first. But in today's world, I don't even really know that that matters as long as we feel like we've gotten the word out. And so we are grateful for that. It's a big change from the past.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned a little bit earlier, you have a lot of experience in the education field. You've been a superintendent before. What role has technology played in improving your ability to make these decisions over time?
Oh, I mean, it's everything. I can remember back uh, when I was a little girl, my dad was a principal in DeSoto, Texas at DeSoto High School. And it was just a strange coincidence that I was half day kindergarten and the other half of the day, for some reason, I was with him at the school. And they had to rely on the walkie talkies and the I don't even know. It was a certain station that they could turn to that would do the national weather forecast. And I never will forget hearing the loud beep of the tornado that was coming through, and it ended up hitting the school, um, and doing a lot of damage in the area. Luckily, no one was harmed, but so I can't even really, I don't even know exactly what system that was, but it was a lot of tuning in to our local news channels to rely. And, for most of us in our area, that was 3, 6, and 12. And so, um, we would flip back and forth. And I can also remember, just as a young teacher, having a little bitty tiny TV in our teacher lounge, and we could all kind of go in on our break times, and the news would be on, and we would get the reports that way. But technology has changed all of that, and um, and I think ultimately has made our schools a safer place, and um, certainly helps us get words out to parents quickly if we're in a state of, if we have to duck and cover, or if we need to dismiss because an ice storm hits in the afternoon, not expected. I don't know. I can't see. There are things about technology and education that are hard as far as in the classroom goes. To me, I feel like we've become very heavily dependent on it, which has its pros and cons. But as far as safety and weather, it's great. It's a great benefit to have.
Absolutely. I do have one last question for you before we go. Has there ever been a time where you have made a particularly different closing decision? And if so, what did you learn from that experience?
Well, so yeah, today, no, yesterday, about today. This wasn't an easy one. And I can't tell you that it's the worst. There were times when I was a superintendent in Karnak ISD, we were on Caddo Lake. And so we definitely had some bus routes that were by the river. And, flooding could happen, not flash flooding necessarily, but it could happen pretty quickly. And we have to make some tough calls about leaving early to get kids home before that happened. The decisions about today, though, just come down to, okay, we've been out 3 days this week. Um, we need to get kids back in, but we also need to keep kids safe. And we drive the routes, and 90% of them are good and solid, and we think we can make arrangements for the others, but you still have people that are not happy with that. And in this job that you're not going to make everyone happy for sure, but being happy and kids being safe are two different things. And so, generally speaking, we always try to err on the side of safe over, you know, pressure of people need to get back to work, etc. And so, you just, again, you rely on your resources, and some of those are people and some of those are technology, um, and just try to make the best decision that you can make, and hope that people know your heart in this position and know that you would never do anything to endanger children. Um, and then, like I said, you just do a lot of, please let this work. Please let everyone be safe. Please, let's just get everyone home. And um, I have a great board, and I stay in communication with them in this process. Probably I wear them out, to be honest with you, but I want them to know, and I want them to be just aware of what we're doing, and that any decision we make, we're not making lightly.
Yes, ma'am. I completely understand. And it's always better too, especially when it comes to weather, to be on the side of caution. I feel like, especially with Arklatex weather. I mean, it changes so much, and we see some pretty extreme weather. I mean, this week was a great example. We were fortunate to dodge the worst of it. I mean, we still saw impacts, but I mean, just to our east over in Monroe, uh, things were, and even to the south in Panola County. I mean, a lot of power outages, a lot of ice on the roads, and definitely some more significant impacts out that way.
Yes, I'm 100% in. Yeah, I felt for the people on 20 that were stranded, and I do know that a lot of Carthage ISD had power outages, and so I do think that most of Elysian Fields was pretty safe in that arena. The worst thing I heard was a little bit of low water pressure. And so, yes, we felt very blessed, and we just have to get kids home this afternoon, and then hopefully tomorrow we're able to have all of our routes go everywhere they need to go safely. And, you know, we start next week. We thought there was going to be some bad weather again next week, but it looks like maybe that's changed. And it's just going to be cold. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Yes, ma'am. We've got a cold weekend ahead, but temperatures should be back in the upper 50s by Monday. And other than a little bit of rain next week, I think all should be well.
okay, well, that's great to hear. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time. I can't tell you how much I learned in this conversation with you, and a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, I know that there's a lot that goes behind those decisions, and it can't be easy. So I appreciate you taking the time to share some of your insight and your perspective with us today.
Well, thanks, Jake. Thanks for having us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for joining me. All
I-
all right, that is your first alert weather breakdown for today. We'll see you right back here Monday at 10:30.